My name is Brian Lim. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 10 years. My specialty has lots to do with hardware, technology, and I really have a flair for basically trying to figure out how to send things into space. So I've raised a bunch of money to send a couple of things into space. Startup life, win some, lose some, that comes with the territory. And now I'm back in Sydney, basically building new space companies that can design to actually save lives. A couple of years ago, I recognized that the fires were going to get really bad in Australia and globally. And, when you're predicting the future, it's like trying to predict the lottery. But that was where I went. So we realized pretty quickly that when you're in an emergency situation, uh, communication is key. And without communication, there's nothing. Same as your relationship advice. And so we realized in an emergency situation, like big disasters, these mega disasters, that there is no communications infrastructure to rely on. There's no power, no comms, no roads to repair. Everything's in the air. So my current company called Wise Networking has designed the world's first air deployable cell phone tower, designed to airdrop and land to restore communications in an emergency. And right now, we're just working to make it go from space back to Earth so that we can drop it anywhere on the planet in 2 hours. My career has been tech all the time. I got out of university, did cold calling for a large Fortune 500 company, didn't really like it. Then in the world of entrepreneurship, I was bombarded by a lot of people who says you should build an app, you should build a website, you should start up an e-commerce business. And that never was my thing. So I went off on my own track. And I remember distinctively that a good advice someone told me was, if you want to make a lot of money, solve a big problem. So I said, okay, I want to solve the biggest problems. Either my ego was too large or whatever else, I can't remember. Um, well, this was the time when still had hair. So I went and sat down and read every UN report about the world I could get my hands on. And I recall that I started doing it on Monday, and I started crying my eyes out on Wednesday because I realized how bad the world actually was. And looking at the data very distinctively, I went, screw it. I can make my money. There's ways to make money, but we have a far more work ahead of us to make this world a better place than we realize. So since then, I just sat down and started studying very deeply, very big problems and look for technology and solutions to solve it. And I wouldn't be restricted to websites or APIs or apps. I would just go, what's the right technology? What's the right group of people to solve those problems? And I would just hammer it till I find the answers. And that's been my career. So I've ended up doing sensor networks. I've looked at blockchain. I've figured out how to send stuff into space, and now I'm doing communication towers on the ground. The worst advice I got was to actually raise money. And I say this almost, it's not that raising money is a bad idea, is that I was pushed to raise money when I didn't understand what I was actually trying to do. What was, getting the money is one thing, but all the other stuff around it doesn't get discussed as much. So raising money too early can kill your company. So that was one of the worst advice I got, was actually to go raise money. And now I'm very cautious on raising money. In terms of the best advice I ever got, it was basically to slow down, breathe, and take stock of what's going on. You want to be fast, but you don't want to rush. And that minor difference is everything. Because if you rush, you're going to build a bad product and bad service, and nobody will want it. But if you were fast, but you deliver it to quality and standards, people will remember and they'll come back to you. I wished I knew more about the global geopolitical landscape back then when I started than I do now. Because one of the things, like very simply, going forward, every major company will require a geopolitical analyst to navigate the next 30 years of their existence on a global scale. That's bottom line. And if I had that expertise started developed 10 years ago, I would probably be now 5 times further along than what I am now. The biggest mistake I ever made was actually is because it was what I was pushing too hard out of the box. I had a particular project I was trying to get started in the United States. I had a co-founder from a Latin American country, and I'm from, come from Australia. There, there's pushing, and then there's like you're way too far out for anyone to rescue you. Um, and that's unfortunately what happened to me. I was way too far out of my comfort zone. I didn't know the cultural differences between the peoples in the United States, Latin America, and other stuff. So looking back, that business partnership didn't work out. And that was because I jumped too far in with too much high hope for things to work out without really understanding what the problem I was facing was in terms of culture. I follow the mantra that it's 1% talent and 99% persistence. So um, I've been doing stuff in the space industry for nearly 10 years. And when you're doing space stuff, you will fall hard a lot, right? Um, and the only reason why I have gotten as far as I have and I'm building the products that I have is that I just persisted. That I was still, after 3 or 4 falls, I was still standing there and still going at it. And a lot of people had a lot of respect for the fact I did it, and they started giving me more opportunities, and I just worked my way through it to where I am now.